the okay.
Ah,
Yeah, because it will be. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
hello, good morning.
Oh,
Good to be here with you. Hi, Mark. I don't know if we know each other. Do we know each other?
I saw you before in other meetings. I am in Nebraska.
Okay, nice. I hope I didn't say anything that's nonsense. Then that your time is going to be worth it today.
I'm sure we're going to do just great.
Well, this is our reflection, right? So we'll be here. Well, I think, Lino, I think we can start. The clock here is 10:59, right? Now it just became 11. So, Lino, would you like to do our opening prayer?
Sure. Can you guys hear me well in the Zoom?
Yes.
All right, so let me invite all of us to close our eyes and elevate our thoughts to our Master Jesus. Being thankful for the opportunity to be here, to um, to to be able to unite in thought with our Creator and ask for the inspiration and the guidance for our understanding during this topic that Cintya is going to bring to us, but more especially to the mentors of this SSC to inspire her so that she can deliver to us all that she prepared in advance for our enlightenment. May we be able to grasp it uh, easily and apply it to our daily lives. We ask the permission of our mentors to begin our session and the blessing to our Father through our lives. So be it.
So be it.
So be it.
So hi again, everyone. Um, I'm extra happy to be here today for us to reflect together on this topic, but I'm extra happy too because today is an extra special day. It's Women's International Day, right? Uh, so let me first start sharing let's see, my technology skills here are not that great. I'll share.
And share.
Not picture, I like it.
Is that good?
Yep.
Can you guys?
Yes.
Okay, great, great. Well, thank you for being here, right? And as we were saying, today is Women's International Day. So for me, being a woman, I think it's an extra happy reason to be here and talking about this to you. We're going to reflect on this topic, but before we delve into the topic, um, let's talk a little bit about the women's right, International Women's Day. Actually, it was created in 1911, and it's part of the women's rights movement, which history tells us that it started in the 1800s, in the mid of the 1800s. And what inspired the women's rights movements was actually the abolitionism. So the women's right has roots in the abolitionism, also in the Enlightenment, that movement in Europe. And there are some other factors too that took an important part in starting this in the U.S. Hi, Camila. Good to see you. Well, the women's movement, the women's rights movements, was one of the first civil societies movements that aimed at raising awareness against disenfranchising, segregation, discrimination, bias, material stereotypes, and other issues of this type. Other movements came later, but the women's rights movement was one of them. So for about 100 years, the women's rights movements has raised awareness about these issues and has also been disseminating, incentivizing, and fostering that men and women to fight for equality, for inclusion, for respect, for integration. And this is all based on the principle that all human beings are equal. The world has evolved, and with that, other types of movements to protect rights of others and other things as well have come to promote the good of certain groups, or to protect some things like protect the environments, protect animals, protect the rights of women and minorities. But why are we talking about that? We're talking about that because about 2025 years ago, Jesus started his own movement to raise awareness of the common good, of the common love, of the common peace, of the common justice. And as all civil society movements, right, that sought this type of equality, Jesus' movement also found resistance against it. Many movements, even the Me Too movement today, there are people that are against it. Why are women doing that? So back then, when Jesus started, he also faced the resistance of many. And we may think that others resist. Who resist Jesus? Jesus' movement of love, of equality, of justice. And we may think that actually it was the religious and civil authorities at the time of Jesus, and maybe after that. But actually not. It was not only those entities, but we also have resisted Jesus' message. And we have been doing that for a long time. You may not think that that is the case, but if we perform a deeper reflection on our conduct, what our conduct has been, right? Our acts, our omissions, our conduct in general, we may see that we too have been resisting Jesus' message, Jesus' call throughout these years. Well, in the movement, on his movement and Christ's movements for justice, love, charity, he has called us to him. He has been doing that since his time here on earth, about 2025 years ago, right? And what he said to us is, if you want to come after me, you have to deny yourself. You have to pick up your cross and follow me. Then I ask you, which one of us have really denied ourselves, picked up our crosses, and followed him step by step? Can we answer that question? Well, maybe we don't need to, right? Maybe we need to think about that to ourselves. And although we all want to follow him. We know we do, right? We have not actually done all of these things. And because of that is that we're not following. We're not following him. That's because of that is that that I say that we have been resisting Jesus' messages, Jesus' lesson. But then you may say, oh, what do you mean? What are you talking about exactly, Cintya? Well, I mean that we have lived our lives with pride, with jealousy, arrogance, vanity, impatience, intolerance, rage, irritation, right? We have biases. We make fast judgments and so much more without much thought. We don't give much thought to that. We just live with those things in us. We don't give it much thought. We don't reflect. We're not much concerned about it. And that's why, again, we have been resisting Jesus' thoughts. And in the same way that we say that we have been resisting his call, his lesson, in the same way, we have had difficulties going through the narrow door. Right? Okay, Cintya, but what do you mean? What is this narrow door about? Well, what is this story about, this narrow door? So the narrow door is a passage where Jesus will tell us, enter through the narrow door, for wide is the gate. I use gate here because some texts will use door or gate, but gate and door are interchangeable, okay? So enter through the narrow door, for wide is the gate or the door, and broad is the road that leads to perdition, and many enter through it. But small is the door, and narrow is the road that leads to life, and few enter through it, and few find it or enter through it. This passage is in the Sermon of the Mount. Jesus pronounced it during the Sermon on the Mount. And what is Jesus saying here is that, hey, there is this very wide door, right, that leads to a narrow, comfortable road, an easy road, and many take that road and go through that wide door. But there's a catch. That door and that road lead to perdition. Then Jesus is saying in the next paragraph, he's saying, hey, but there is a narrow, small door that leads to a narrow, probably pretty tough road. But that narrow door and that tough road lead to life, and very few take it. So I think by now we're already starting to put in the dots, and maybe we can start connecting the dots. But what is exactly the narrow door here? The tough road that Jesus is talking about? Well, simply speaking, the narrow door is an allegory, a metaphor that Jesus used many times in his teachings, right? And that represents the challenges, the difficulties, the trials, the tribulations, the sacrifices that are part of everybody's life, that we will all have in life, no matter how rich or how poor we are, no matter how intelligent or not so much we all are going to face the tough road and see narrow doors that is hard to go through. And why is Jesus, again, I'll insist a little bit on the question, a little bit different. Why is Jesus saying that few go through the narrow door? Do we go through the narrow door? Well, again, now we can start even connecting the dots further, right? Because we can see that the reason why few go through the narrow door and take the tough road like us, right? It's because we do not put aside our physical and material desires, our exacerbated ambitions, our self-centeredness, our egocentrism, our very pride and jealousy and vanity, our intolerance, our hatred, and so many other of our bad inclinations. We have not yet denied ourselves. We have not yet picked up our cross and followed him as he has been teaching us for so many years. That is why it's so tough for us to take the narrow, the small path and go through the narrow door. We keep choosing the wide door, the easy, wide road. Maybe it's paved. It's easy for us to go through, right? And why? Because it's attractive to us. The wide door, the wide path are still very attractive to us. It's kind of natural if you really think, because the wide door, it is full of incredible promises. It, it promises us benefits. It gives us pleasures, lots of inferior pleasures, but are pleasures. And we like pleasures, right? It's full of conveniences. There's a lot of relaxation, sophistication. It shines with social status, prestige, power, fame, extra comfort, luxury. Who of us would not like to have those? So it's easy for us to be kind of, you know, attracted to that. It's easy. That's why Jesus said, few go through the narrow door, and many go through the wide door. And then I ask, okay, all right, it's kind of a tough scenario. Yes, it is. But then I ask you, and that is to be, we're not here on vacation, right? If we really think about it. Then I ask you, how many times have we taken the wide door versus the narrow door? Emmanuel comes to help answer this question for us because we probably do not want to answer that, right? Well, Emmanuel responds to us by saying that most of us have chosen the wide door all the time. And not only in this life, and the choices that we have been made up to this point in this current life, in this current incarnation, right? But we have made the choice of taking the wide door and the easy, wide path, all in our previous incarnations. If not all the time, at least most of the times. All incarnations? Yes, Emmanuel says that all incarnations. And talking about incarnation or reincarnation, maybe us spiritists should know a little bit about it, right? But in general, we know what it is, right? We know what it is for, and we know that reincarnations is a blessing given by God to us, right? For us to evolve spiritually, because we are spirits momentarily in a physical body. So reincarnations is the chances, it's the blessing that God gives us for us to redeem our faults, for us to repair the damages that we have caused to ourselves or to others, for us to come back and finish what we started and never finished, right? To learn, to progress in our spiritual journey. And we know that as incarnated spirits, but also when we are discarnated and when spirits are in the spiritual world, they also know that. And when the spirit is there, we all were there before being here this time, right? And all of the other times. When we were there, right, we know that. We know that the reincarnation is for us to do all of that, all of what I mentioned. So when the spirit is in the spiritual realm, and he has the opportunity to reincarnate, because we know we have to reincarnate so many times until we get to relative perfection. And that's going to happen. We don't know how many times, right? So, but when we are there, or when the spirit's there, it knows that it will have to come here to learn. And when it receives the opportunity to reincarnate, if the spirit has the merit, he or she may even plan the trials, the tribulations, and the challenges that it will implement, the plans in general that it will implement when back on earth, right? Because he knows, the spirit knows and recognizes and understands that it needs to learn, right? It knows that learning, it also knows that learning is achieved by going through trials, tribulations, challenges, difficulties, suffering maybe. Who does not suffer on this earth? We just said that, right? It doesn't matter our social status or anything. The spirit then desires to acquire all of these instruments to progress when it comes back to earth, right? It chooses the problems it will faces and comprehends that it will be hard, but it believes that it will be able to handle them. And this will enrich and help him or her redeem him or herself. The spirit asks for the challenges, and it's convinced that that is the way for it to become a more elevated being. The spirit finally gains a new blessed physical body, because our physical body is another gift, blessing from God, for us to go through our experience and evolve here on earth. The body will serve for the spirit to use in its work of rectification and improvement when on the crust. However, returning to the earth, returning to the physical realm, the spirit, and I should say now in the plural, the spirits, why not say us, right? Typically will go back to choosing the wide door, the easy path. It will look for the wide door. It will look for the easy path, the easy path. Are we good on time, Lino?
Yeah.
And so does others, and so does multitude of other spirits. Let's not feel bad. It's not only us. That's why Jesus says that few go through the narrow door and multitudes go through the wide door, right? The spirit, the incarnated spirit, decides to take the direction, decides to take the least effort, the path that gives them the minimum efforts possible. It puts aside what once it desired, what it wants to ask for, because he knew that that was the way of spiritual growth. But unfortunately, it marches through the wide doors. The spirit takes the road of pride, the road of selfishness, the road of laziness, greed, egocentrism, materialism, selfish, and all other bad inclinations that we already mentioned. The spirit does not even think or help its brothers and sisters. It does not face its responsibilities. It does not it does not take care of its duties. It demands all favors, all benefits, all special treatment without any merit. It seeks inferior pleasures, power, luxury, status, fame, satisfaction of all desires. The spirit is on earth, crosses fields of edifying opportunities of spiritual growth without producing, without accomplishing anything useful. In a clear attitude of despise toward the sanctifying commitments that it once assumed before the spirituality when it was in the spiritual world. The commitments that it once lived up to that would bring this spirit learning, reconciliation, redemption, evolution. It could bring its spiritual balance to a lesser number. Bring it to zero, it's hard. In one incarnation, I don't think so, right? But at least reducing the accounting, the divine accounting. Emmanuel also says that almost all of us only awake to the missed opportunities here on earth when it's too late. Usually this happens when physical illnesses affect us. Usually when it's near the transformation death, that death which usually brings us. That's kind of sad, right? But there's always, especially with Spiritism, we learn that there's always a light in the end of the tunnel. Well, then the spirit will say, if it would be possible for me to go back and live differently. And with their hearts at that time full of affliction and anguish, the spirit wants to now love, wants to do good, wants to help others, wants to be patient, to be humble. Minimal things that we could do every day and we don't think about it. Maybe I should be less irritated. But then the spirit also thinks how joyful it would be to work in a way, to live in a way, to devote It's time to bring happiness to others. But unfortunately, it is too late. It's no longer possible. The Spirit had requested challenges, tribulations, suffering. It knew it would be hard, but it took it. It knew it needed to develop this redemptive, constructive work in order, and he received it. The redemptive, constructive work that is based on overcoming challenges, tribulations, being faithful, being hopeful, trusting our Creator, right? However, at the moment that the Spirit faced them, it ignored, it turned its back, it despised those opportunities. And again, most incarnated spirits will choose the easy path and return to the long lines of those who want to come in and cannot. As the narrow door is also depicted in Luke, right? And it's there in a passage where someone asks Jesus, Lord, are only a few people going to be saved? And Jesus responds, make every effort to go through the narrow door, because many, I tell you, will try to come in, but won't. So the Spirit will go back to the long lines of those that want to come in, but cannot, in that reincarnation. But we know that infinite justice and goodness of God will give us other chances. But why? Why think about other chances? Let's take and use the chance, the opportunity we have now, right? In the book, Missionaries of the Light, we learn, for those that read it, and for those that have not, I invite you to read it. I encourage you to do. We learn one term, the term completists. In that book, there is a certain point, a certain chapter, I think they might be chapter 3 or 12, but anyway, at chapter 12, where André Luiz is talking to one worker of that area. Actually, they're talking about preparations for reincarnation. And in that dialogue, Manassés is the name of this worker in the spiritual realm with whom André Luiz is having a dialogue. And then he mentions completists, because I think he's saying that he's afraid of the body. And actually, it's in a part where there's a department we see in the spiritual world where the bodies, the spirits decide, or it's decided for them, again, depending on the merits, right? What the body of each one of our bodies are going to look like, tall, short, and all of that. And then this spirit is saying that he's afraid of coming back. And I think he's even choosing to have a little problem in his leg, because that will be better for him to accomplish his mission, to go through the narrow door when he's here. And then he uses, in this explanation, he uses the word completists. And completists are exactly that. Those who take advantage of all the constructive opportunities the physical body offers to acquire expressive rights in the spiritual plane. That's exactly what and also in the book, it says that the completists are very few. That resonates with the narrow door when Jesus says that very few take the narrow door and choose the narrow, small road, right? And the evangelic text, right, and the narrow door, it does then explains to us why this is the case and how it does, because it not only tells us what we have to do, but it tells us what we have to do. If we go to the Gospels of Luke, Mark, John, and Matthew, we're going to find the entire description of the sublime conduct of Jesus, which is the quintessential moral guide for all of us. Not only the Sermon on the Mount, which is one of the most sublime, most beautiful texts and guides for our moral conduct, but Jesus' entire life with his lessons, magnificent lessons of love, of charity, of fraternity, of peace, of understanding. Throughout his entire life, he's given us examples. And when we read that, we really, we get touched. It resonates with us, but maybe on the surface. What we really have to do is to reflect upon it, right? One of his most important commandments, love your God above everything and your neighbor as yourself, right? It really gets to us. How sublime is this? Yet, we've learned so little of it. And sorry to say, but worse than that, even less we practice. Well, the narrow door passage says that the wide door leads to perdition. Perdition here, we need to interpret it correctly. The perdition here is not exactly annihilation, destruction. Some texts will use, you'll see, we'll use the word destruction, but it's not the physical destruction, the destruction, the annihilation of the person or of the world. No, it's not that. It's actually, it's the loss, right? From the word, the root of the word is Latin is perdition, means loss. The loss, it means the loss of opportunities that we were given to progress, to be better, to fix. Didn't we come here to redeem our faults? Didn't we come here to finish where we left off? What we didn't finish before? To repair the damage that we caused to someone or maybe to ourselves, right? Those that commit suicide, they are going to come back. But unfortunately, or fortunately or not the right word, but they will come in a situation that is up to par to what the damage that they did to themselves. And we know that's a very bad thing, right? Now, in order for us to start really thinking about the narrow door, right, we need to look at ourselves. We need to see what our behavior, what our conduct is, and change what we need to change. But we cannot change things if we don't know what is wrong, right? We can't. We really need to become conscientious, aware of who we really are. It's not an easy thing, because if we really do it in a serious, sincere way, we may not like what we will see, but we need to do that. We cannot keep putting the dirt under the rug, right? We can't. But a wise philosopher once said, what's the most effective way of guaranteeing self-improvement and resisting the attraction of wrongdoing? Do we know? Know yourself. And who was this philosopher? Socrates. If you go to the Spirit's book, it's also there too. Question 919. So let's then start recognizing, learning who we are, recognizing or becoming aware of our weaknesses, our inferior inclinations. And in an honest exercise, let's do a self-analysis. That's what St. Augustine's lesson is all about, right? For those that have read time and again, the Gospel according to Spiritism, we have clear there the lesson of St. Augustine that told us that every day he would do that retrospective and see if he had hurt someone, if he had said something that may have offended one, if he could have done better, something that he did, right? So, oh, we're always in a hurry. Let's just do this, right? No. I know we know, right? Who am I? I'm just reflecting words of wisdom that what we learn, right? It's not easy, life imposes to us a rhythm that sometimes it's very hard. We get in a bifurcation of, do I do this right? With good quality, or I just do it because I have this pressure of time. We have to pray for serenity, for discernment, for all of those things, right? But so let's remember St. Augustine and do that retrospect. And let's also then stop blaming others, blaming the world, blaming God, or anything or anybody else for our failures, for our mishaps, for what goes wrong with us, for what doesn't go the way we want it to go, our lack of success, right? And all the negative things that happen. We have to stop doing that. Yeah, I think we have time. There is this story about a desperate man who one day got to be in the presence of Christ. And he asked him, Lord, what do I get to do, or what must be done to get out of this labyrinth, of this maze of earth? Everything here is shadow, evil, indifference, anguish, affliction, pride, jealousy. All of these bad things dominate humankind. And to my view, people people drown in a sea of darkness. Lord, what is the path to ensure my liberation of all of that? Then Jesus, with the way only Jesus has, caressed gently the head of this man, of this unfortunate man, and said generously and tenderly to him, Son, nobody prevents you from turning your own light. We may be a little bit puzzled here. I was not, but we might, right? So I thought that we would talk about this response by Jesus. The narrative reflects the feeling of many of us, the feeling that many of us have when we observe the world around us, right? We see war. We see so many wrong things. We see egocentrism. We see dictatorship. We see a lot of bad things when we look at the scenario of the world where we are now. And I would say, even if we were to position ourselves even back in times, probably we would see the same thing. Think of the France just before the French Revolution. Think of even later. Think of the ancient times where just because I followed Christ, I was thrown in the circus to be devoured by beasts. So it has been a constant. Our seeing the world, maybe the way it is, and I think it is, but all full of darkness and evil and bad things. But the lesson of the Christ is simple here. The path to freedom is to turn on one's light. However, there's more also in this lesson itself. There's always more in Jesus' lessons, right? There's more here for us to assimilate. If we look at the man's objective, and he says, right, Lord, what do I do to ensure that I get released from all of this? So when we see the man's question, request to Jesus, his objective is only to get out of the situation, to get out of what he calls labyrinth, right? The maze of the planet Earth, because he can't take it anymore. That's what his question, right? Do you agree? Hope I had said the question, but that's what it is. In no moment of his question, he demonstrates concern with others, or the reason, or he doesn't even inquire the reason why darkness and bad things populate so indiscriminately in the world. or even what he could do to help, right? Those that swim, that drown in a sea of darkness. He doesn't contemplate any of those aspects. So when our desire is only to free ourselves from what bothers us, with no concern to others, with no concern with the whole situation that is surrounding us, usually bad, right? Because if it's good, nobody's going to complain, right? Then we are keeping ourselves in our own darkness without any improvement to us, without no illumination, no enlightenment to us. Our look to the world in suffering is sometimes, right? We look at the world sometimes, the suffering world, with an air of false superiority. We judge others very harshly. We judge people from other countries and other cultures, right? Or communities harshly, without not even knowing their reality, their past, their present. We just see one screen and the surface of it, right? We say, how can they still behave in that manner? What are they thinking? How can they do that? How can they think this and that? We do not take 1 minute to reflect that if we were in the same circumstances, if we would do any differently, or if we would do even worse. Do we do that? We do not typically. No, we're fast to judge and express our opinions, which is usually not good. Humans, I should say we, right? Because I'm part of all of this too. We typically don't open our mouths to express good things. If we really think, we are fast. And quite often we open our mouths to say something, to complain to something that we don't like, right? To say that the others did this and that, things like that. But not in the same amount. Let's even put like that. If we compare, we don't, right? It's difficult to evaluate. Yeah, it is difficult. So, oh, but how can I know I'm not there? Yeah, of course, it is very difficult. We know that. And because of this very reason is that we should be more prudent, more cautious, I should say, sorry, with our judgments. Before wanting to liberate ourselves from this world, so complicated that it is, right? How about offering some type of solution to it? Solution to help. Then there is the brilliant response from Jesus to the man. No one stops you from enlightening yourself, to start with. Jesus could have said, yeah, we need to turn on our light to liberate ourselves. But he didn't. He didn't. He said, well, why don't you do something about it? In the very diplomatic, beautiful, sublime words that only Jesus has. Even caressing someone. When do we do that? If someone asks us a question, we say, hello, right? With sarcasm and irony. But Jesus was much more insightful than that. He says, no one can stop you, right? To turn on your own light. Meaning, if you really wanted, if you really wanted, if you truly, sincerely wanted it, you could have already liberated yourself. But no, we're there pointing fingers and just leading our own lives. Or truly, right? If you are still part of this darkness, that's also another lesson, another angle that Jesus is trying to say. You are really part of that mess, part of that darkness, which is the world now, that you criticize so vehemently. It's very difficult to hear that. It is, right? It is. But this is our world, the world we constructed throughout times. Remember, I said a few minutes ago, if we transported us back centuries ago, ancient Christian times, right? Wouldn't we say that? This world is horrible. I cannot, I have to go to the catacombs to hear, to learn about the messages from the Lord, from Jesus. And if I'm caught, I am taken to be eaten by the beasts in the circus, and people will laugh and have fun. What kind of world is that? Let's transport us now to today. We look around near us, a little far in other countries, right? But again, um, it's our world. We've constructed it. We are constructing it now. That's why we should think about the narrow door, right? Nothing's more just than, if we constructed it, then nothing's more just than we ourselves fixing it, right? Doing the job of saving the world that we constructed and put in darkness. We must change the bad panorama, the bad scenario by means of constant, continuous work in the good, in the improvement of ourselves. It's easy to escape from the circus when it's burning. The challenge is to extinguish that fire that we have created ourselves, directly or indirectly, right? So after the fire is extinguished, we will see what needs to be reconstructed, and we will construct it together. In fact, this is the moment of the new world. This will be the picture, the reality of the new planet of regeneration. Everything, everything that we do, this enlightenment that we need, is to work, all of this exercise is to work on our inner self-improvement. It's for us to win over our bad inclinations. And bad inclinations, let's not think that it's crimes that are capitulated in the criminal codes of the countries. No, it's my getting irritated with anything, right? It's with my not being patient, with my needing things. We talked about that in the previous session, right? Needing now. It's my laziness. I'm going to be here and I'm going to be enjoying. Okay, we're not criticizing that, but if you do that more often than actively working in the good, in the learning, in the working, not only for yourselves, but for something that will improve, contribute a little bit to bring this light and extinguish a little bit of the darkness. That's what it is. Turning on one's light is our way to contribute, even if it's small, right? But in an important way. It's an important way to help illuminate the world. We want to change the world? Oh, I can't. Of course we cannot. But we can change ourselves. And changing ourselves, we are that small grain of sand that is part of the whole sand and the oceans that will make a change. Can you imagine the billions of people in the world changing? So let's not abandon that fight. So to finish, see if I can get here. All right. So to finish, let me see here my script. Yeah. In order to make this exercise of taking the narrow door, what it is to take the narrow door in real terms, Cintya, you talked about this. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, but how? What is it to take the narrow door means exactly? Then again, we went to Emmanuel. Emmanuel helped us with simple words here, right? To see what exercises we should do, practical exercises we should do in order to, okay, let me choose to go through the narrow door, right? Because it's tough. So we need some consolation. In Spiritism, Christ gives us a lot of consolation. Yes, there's challenge, there's tribulation, there's suffering, but there is light in the end of the tunnel. There is consolation from God. Didn't Jesus say that, come to me, all of you that are afflicted and fearful? I don't know how to quote that. My yoke is light And
burden is
my work is light, and
soft.
I don't have this here, but he said that to us, right? So there is, it's not only suffering. Some people say, right? I've heard, oh, you spiritists, you are masochists because you want, no, no, we are not masochists. We just see the world through the real lights, the lights of the spirituality, the lights of wisdom, the lights of knowledge, to understand that when we are in dire situations, we don't commit suicide, that we don't do crazy things, that we don't cut ourselves, right? That we don't do things and this is not any condemnation and any judgment, but it's exactly for us not to go through these types of behaviors that only are not going to help, but on the other way around, are going to burden ourselves even more, are going to put, are going to make the doors being even narrower, right? There is consolation, there's love, there's patience. Nobody said it, it's easy. There's faith, there's hope. We have channels on earth that God, because God helps men and women through men and women, right? But okay, let's we are good in time, but close to the end. Actually, this is the last part. The lessons of Emmanuel is how we should see the side of light of things, right? So if we are facing a difficult duty, we should see that as privilege. If we finish the duty, we should feel like mission accomplished. If we are in a routine that bores us, that, oh, I can deal with that, this job, or this, I'll doing this at home, we should see that routine as a conquest of victory. If we're feeling lonely, I have no one in my life, I don't find a romantic partner, or I don't have my family and I'm here, I'm all alone, all my family members have discarnated. Maybe then it's time to reflect. Setbacks in our lives, and how many we have, right? We should see setbacks as beneficial warnings. Daily adversities, who doesn't have them? That's a practice. That's a training of patience. Last minute tribulations, things that happen at the last minute and ruin some plans that we have. We should see that as specific help that came in order to avoid maybe something much worse. Sudden illness that we face. It's the divinity sending us emergency support. Or a more serious situation of health, which is a congenital disease. That's a correction for the spirit. The adversaries, our opponents at work, or in life, or maybe at the spirit center, in church, wherever we go. They're always going to be one or another, right? We should see them as our beneficial auditors, those that are putting us in check and causing us to see, maybe I'm kind of right, maybe to help us in that very self-reflection that Socrates told us to do, that St. Augustine also teaches us, right? Criticism, I'm always criticized. I face a lot of criticism. Maybe that's an appeal for improvement. Have we ever thought of that? I'm facing a lot of offenses. People offend me. I can't take that. I'm going to pay back with more or the same type of intensity. How many times have we thought that? How many times we see that? No, this is a call for tolerance. Maybe that's something. I said, I will lose my tolerance. We don't lose what we don't have. Disparagement. It's a test of love, right? Disparagement is just to clarify here, it's some type of criticism too, right? It's some type of that. And it's also a test of love. That's how we should see it. If people kind of despises us or says, not good things about us that don't fall exactly as a criticism. This is a test of love. Love, didn't we just say? I mean, not that I said, I repeated one of the most important commandments, love your God above everything and your neighbor as yourself. And another one I think that fits better, love your enemies. Right? Temptation. Oh my gosh, temptations that come with so many from so many different incarnations that we had. Don't we pray? Love free us from temptation, the temptations that still are in us. Isn't that the Lord's Prayer? So temptation is an exercise, it's a course of resistance. It's still gravitating around us because we asked for that, right? When we were there. Let's now take it, do better, overcome it, fight against it. Oh, it's coming, but it's in my face. Oh, how can I resist? Yes, you can. God gave us free will and gave us wisdom, gave intelligence. We're not talking here, of course, about problems of health. This is a different story, but in general, right? Failure. Oh, I tried this time and again and I fail. Oh my God, I just don't know what to do anymore. It's the end. No, maybe it's a message that it's a need for change. You need to change. Disunion at home. Does any one of us have a perfect family? We want to think that we do, and we want to hold them because we love them all, but it happens. So think of your family area as an area of redemption. Maybe past lives, maybe this life, right? It doesn't matter when. It's not how I need to know. I don't know. We are given to forget what no, the forgetting. No, where are God's laws? Do you know? Do you remember? It's also in the Spirit's book. Said, oh, but I don't have God's law. Is it the Bible? Is it the New Testament? God's law is in our conscience. We know what is right, what is wrong, what we did, even if nobody saw it. Right. A complex relative, kind of associated, right? It's a debt collection. Shall we see that? Can we try to see that as it? I think we're coming close to an end, really. Social obstacles. It's a lesson of humility. Oh my gosh, my friends are all well-to-do and I'm no one. I'm a John Doe. Well, that's a humility lesson. Maybe this incarnation, you have to learn how to be humble and you're not. Abandon of loved ones. That's a compulsory renovation. A disillusion. Oh, you're disillusioned. You were disillusioned in love or this and that. That's a visit by the truth. Disappointments. It's the unveiling of the truth. Crisis. A calibration of love. How we're going to use all of those virtues that God has been calling us, that Jesus has been teaching us in the Sermon on the Mount. And sacrifice. Sacrifice? Yes. Sacrifice. What is sacrifice? Oh, I have to make the sacrifice and nobody gives nuts for it. Well, that's spiritual growth. That's spiritual growth. And there's so many others. But these are the lines that Emmanuel brings to us to apply now to our lives. Well, thank you very much. I hope that we all open our eyes a little bit wider, right? And try to go through the narrow door today. Thank you so much.
So can we, do you want to do, Cintya? Perhaps we can do the final prayer and then we can, if anyone wants to stay for questions and answers, because we are in time already. So we just.
Okay. So let's do the final prayer, right? So that we keep, is it time? What time is it?
It's noon.
It's noon? Okay, so to be respectful of everybody's time, let's do the final prayer. And if you guys have any questions, you can ask Emmanuel. No, I'm kidding. You can ask me. You can ask me, and I'll try to share with you what my thoughts are. All right, so for now, we can close our eyes or we can keep them open, however it is that we feel that we connect a little bit better with the celestial planes, with the spiritual realms, to thank Jesus, our beloved master, our individual mentors and guardian angels, to have brought us here today for one more exercise in our search for enlightenment to our spirits, to our hearts, that we may see the world as God and Jesus do, that we may take the words, the lessons that we learned, not only today, but always, and put them in practice in our lives. That we may treat our brothers and sisters the way that our beloved Master does. That we may extend to them the best of ourselves. That we also have the courage and the strength to self-reflect about ourselves, to get to know ourselves a little bit better, and take the correct measures to fix everything that we don't like, to do better, to love more, to be more patient, to study more, to bring more knowledge in all aspects of life to us. And that Jesus, God Almighty, may really see our honest and sincere efforts to improve ourselves. And we ask for forgiveness already, because we know that you do, that we're not perfect and we still are going to fail. But we will continually try to do better every day, and we ask your blessings for our efforts. Bless our efforts every day and be with us every day, so that we can feel your strength, your guidance to transform ourselves the way we want to take the narrow road and take the road that is not so comfortable, because we want to reach that spiritual growth in this reincarnation. So in your name, beloved Master, we ask your permission to close our session today and ask you to be with us today and always. So be it.
So be it.